Welcome to CivilNet. My guests today aren't really guests. They're people very familiar to you, those of you who follow CivilNet, Sara Anjargolian and Timothy Strait. And I want to tell you how we came about arriving at this topic in this table. As you know, the whole month of March, beginning March 8th and ending April 7th, Armenians celebrate women, whatever that means, sometimes in useful ways, sometimes in silly ways. And we have tried to cover topics that deal with women's lives, successes, achievements, problems, challenges, difficulties. And as we were talking with Sara about the feminization of poverty, and using the opportunity to refer again to the beautiful shots, I don't know if that's possible to say, beautiful shots of serious poverty in Armenia that you took, how many years ago?
Almost 5 now. This
Almost
summer will be
5 years ago. And as we were talking about, showing the pictures and talking about poverty, single mom households, the numbers and all, you came up with a brilliant idea. You said, let's call Tim in, because Tim created the Handicraft Development Initiative Foundation. Do I have any of that right?
Homeland Development Initiative Foundation.
Which basically creates jobs for women in the villages.
Yes.
So we were going to talk about something sad and terrible, and Sara decided we should turn it into something hopeful, which is where you come in. But we're going to start with the sad and terrible. Why did you do this? I asked you this when we talked about Gyumri, that how do you find the courage to put yourself in these unsolvable, insurmountable seeming situations, and you document them so beautifully?
Thank you for that, Salpi. I think it comes from the feeling, the emotion that I truly believe that everybody wants to tell their story. And no matter what situation you're in, you are interested that somebody else is interested. There's, I think, no bigger gift to a human being than to be truly interested in their humanity. And yes, of course, it was difficult to be in many of these circumstances, sometimes in garbage dumps, sometimes in domiks that you couldn't handle being in for a few hours, much less
a lifetime.
However, some of these families were actually helped through this project. Some of them weren't.
Through your photo project?
Yeah, some of them were very directly received aid because of the project, and some of them did not. Not because the aid didn't get to them, but because they are still finding themselves in this cycle of poverty that they're not able to pull themselves out of.
So when we talk about the feminization of poverty, is that fair? Based on what you saw and experienced, is that fair? Because the numbers back that up.
Well, so the feminization of poverty is basically the concept that more women than men worldwide find themselves in poverty. And the statistics say that actually 6 out of 10 people, impoverished people worldwide, are women. So the numbers back that up. And certainly in Armenia, that is backed up because most of the families I photographed were actually single mother households, lone female households. And of course, the major reasons for that, twofold really. The men are leaving to find work. I mean, that's not just in Armenia, that's worldwide. And also domestic violence, issues of domestic violence that rip the family apart. Those were really the two main reasons that we have this phenomenon of lone female households, and 1 out of 3 women in Armenia are actually single moms.
And when we were checking those numbers, we realized that's an awfully high number. What was it? In OECD countries, it's even single digits.
That's right. It was, let's see.
Latvia was the highest.
20% in Latvia.
In OECD countries. It's high in post-Soviet space. And I guess that's self-evident, but it was a surprise when we were looking at the numbers. And continue your thought, because this is kind of where you were thinking of Tim coming in, about, there are some you can pull out of cycles of poverty and some you can't. So where are those links that make that possible? I mean, in many ways, you, Tim, put yourself in that same sort of situation as Sara. You end up in these God-forsaken villages at the end of the world. And then you say, let's have a festival.
That's not so far from the truth, actually.
No, you were trying to find a way around it. It's not.
Yeah.
God forsaken was wrong. I do take that back. They're beautiful once you get there. But oh my God, getting there.
Yeah. You know, I have a very strong refugee background. That's the reason I came to Armenia 14 years ago, was through the Norwegian Refugee Council. And in that connection, I traveled a lot to the ends of Armenia and to small villages and to refugees that had come from literally being a professor of linguistics in Baku to a very small village in Upper Lori or Outer Gerhard König or something like that. And you meet amazing destinies, or I don't know what you want to call it, but the bravery of some of them, and I will never forget the stamina. And when you have no choice, you don't think about being strong. You don't think about having stamina. You just do it because you have no other choice. And the women, I will never forget a couple of women in a village up in Lori who had come just after the earthquake to relatives in Armenia. And then the earthquake hit like the next day and killed both of their children, and so the women were left alone. And that's one of the most horrible stories that I know of people, leaving Azerbaijan because of a conflict, coming here, losing their children to the earthquake, and then finding themselves in a small village all by themselves. So you meet a lot of very, very, very strong stories. So then after the Norwegian Refugee Council pulled out of Armenia in 2005, I thought, the women I met through that, the refugees that I met, the men had already started leaving. There wasn't the social network, there wasn't the jobs waiting for them, there weren't the relatives here, there wasn't the glue to keep them here. And the men started slowly leaving the country. And then it left a lot of women behind, and I thought, I have a background in product development. I've worked in other countries on product development, and why can't I do that here? And so I just started going to the villages and saying, what do you do? What did you do? And they said, I crochet, I sew, I knit, I beadwork, whatever, embroidery. And thought, well, we can make products and try to market them and try to raise their profile, tell the story. And what we try to do is tell the true story. We don't sensationalize. We don't do it tear dripping. We don't do it, the
real story of the craftsman.
Of the craftsmen and their story. I mean, why they ended up in this, what this village is really like, and to tell the story. There was an organization in Armenia, an international organization, that made a film a few years ago. Won't say the name, but I reacted very badly to it because they showed women in a village somewhere in the middle of winter or in the spring going out and digging up roots out of the dirt and eating them. And I thought, that's called good soup. And just misrepresentation in order to score points. That's what we can't do that. Both you and I have to tell the real story. Sympathetic, but not over-exaggerating, not under-exaggerating, not over-exaggerating. And then giving them an opportunity.
Do the people you work with get that? Do the people you photograph get that? Did anybody say to you, get out of my face, get out of my hair, what do you want from me? Do they get that this is another sort of action?
Armenian hospitality didn't, they wouldn't allow themselves to say that sentence, but some of them did very directly say, are these photographs going to make a difference in my life? And that's a very sort of difficult question to answer, and which is actually why I'm really happy that we're doing this together, because you are the answer to that question. What you do and the work that your organization does is the answer to that question, because when I am taking those images, as much as I would like to, focus on the story, in my mind I always have that voice also. I wonder, once I walk out of here, if anything is going to change.
Do you wonder that, Tim? With all that you invest in that process? And we should talk about what you invest in that process. It's not just money, huh? It's sourcing the materials, designing.
If you want to change Armenia, not just a woman in a village, but anything in Armenia, it's not about the money. It's about the time, the patience, and the experience, and the know-how. Yeah. And so that's what we do. We spend a lot of time with our organizations, a lot of time with our women, a lot of time explaining why we're doing what we're doing, a lot of time explaining to them that the product is going to be sold to people from the outside here or to the outside, that there's not a lot of money in this country, not a purchasing power. So yes, it's patience, it's time, it's perseverance.
And they get it at the others?
They get it. But you know what? There's some of our groups that say, we believe in everything Tim does. Whatever Tim does is great. That makes me just as uncomfortable as somebody who says, I don't want to do it. Why should I do it? Prove to me why I should do this. Why should I trust you? Who are you? And the happy medium where we have a discussion. We're partners. We're not this or this. We're partners, and we need to...
Very briefly, do that arc from walking into a village and starting to ask, what do you guys really do, to people producing beautiful sweaters that you either coincidentally just wore today or we're glad you did.
Completely coincidental. Can I back up even farther to one of her stories from Vartanis, the small villages up the hill from Vartanis?
Some of your shots are from Vartanis, no?
And not in this
collection,
but maybe in the final piece.
just to show how her story has resulted in a massive network of inputs into that region of the country. She told the story of a young soldier who had lost his arm.
His arm, that's right, his right arm.
His right arm, and he fell in love with the nurse that was taking care of him, and her parents said no, because he could not properly take care of her, right? Where's the money going to come from? And that affected me very deeply, and I had never been to those villages, and I had to go to those villages. Well, that ended up in, we started a sewing project in Vartanis, which is the capital in that region. And that is one of our most successful projects.
What's a sewing project?
It's the sewing project, the Vartanis Sewing. If you go onto Facebook and you just type Vartanis Sewing, it pops up in all their projects. We sell oven gloves and pot holders and runners and table mats and tea cozies and all kinds of things from that project. So we started that project because of that. First week of January 2 years ago, I went, I have nothing to do in the first week of January, I'll go to Vartanis, right? And we went up there.
And he's not even joking.
No, it's true.
In the dead of winter.
It's true. And there was a big billboard in the middle of Vartanis, at the roundabout in the middle of Vartanis, and one of the telephone mobile companies had a big sign that was Zorro on it, in the middle of winter, in this godforsaken little town with Zorro on it. And I thought, we need to do a project here. And anyway, so that project then has blossomed. Because we have that project there, I talked to other contacts I have. The Jinishan Memorial Foundation now has a community development project as a direct result of her photo essay, is now doing a massive community development project in 12, is it 15, of the villages in that region of Vartanis. I don't know if you even knew that.
I did not know that. That's amazing.
Is doing school insulation projects in lots of the schools in those villages because the kids need a warm learning environment, right? We have the Brusov school here in Yerevan partnering up with some schools in Vartanis and the region in order to convey environmental education. We have, and now on top of all of that, we're going to, on the, let's see if I get it right, the 20th of September, have a voske husk, a golden wheat husk, whatever, festival, because that's the wheat basket of Armenia, and we're going to have wheat beer and wheat this and wheat that, and the environmental projects are going to have a display, and then I would love to have you bring your photos up there and have a photo display of the villages.
Absolutely.
2 years later. Right, 2 years after.
Very nice.
This is how things happen in Armenia. The networking is incredible. And I have to say, Tim is one of the people I see most often in my life here. And every time you tell me something, there's always a new project in it. It doesn't cease to amaze me. I didn't know half of what he just said.
Me neither.
And your photos started it all. So if we're talking about poverty, and if we don't want to talk about the feminization of poverty, if we want to talk about the alleviation of poverty, is it fair to say you still have to work with the women?
Yes. Bavons. We do receive some criticism for not working with the men. The men are leaving. Why aren't you creating jobs for them? Well, I have a refugee background. I was in the war in Bosnia. I saw how the men react to a crisis situation and how the women react to a crisis situation. The men are, to make it very black and white and unreasonable, but still more or less, the men, where's the car factory? I don't have a job to go to, where's the car factory? The women are, I need to take care of the kids. I need to have food on the table. I need a roof over my head.
What's my source of income?
I need them warm. Women are much more capable of, I'm in a bad situation and I'm going to do kamats a little bit every day and I'm going to get out of this. The men are a little bit more, no, I'm going to go to Russia and get a job.
Less adaptable in many ways, right? That's what the sociologists say.
Women are more flexible. Women are the backbone of not only this country, a lot of countries. And they're more flexible, they want to learn, they want to explain to them that you need to get on Facebook. Well, we still got work to do to get their products out there, to understand product design, quality control, export procedures, taxation systems. Thanks to the Armenian International Women's Association in California, we are starting to train our women on how to navigate the tax system inside the legal framework, and also on social media. We need to keep doing that. We need to include a new project that came today. You talked about new projects every day. Today, we, HDIF, had a meeting with REPAT Armenia and with the SME DNC, the Small and Medium Enterprise Governmental Organization.
Program that the USAID supports.
Great program. And we talked about how to reach out. Now we have a kind of a social media kesab peak, right? And there's lots of emotion and there's lots of money flying around. But what we want to do is go in and very constructively, very concretely reach out to the Syrian refugees. And we're going to, with UNHCR, with SME DNC, with REPAT, with the Aleppo organizations, with all of those organizations, and figure out how we together meet the needs as best we can for this new wave of refugees.
Which is our next interview.
Which is our next interview. Sorry. Did I get off topic?
No, not at all. Not at all, but it is a perfect illustration of how everybody does what they know how to do, will be fine.
Yeah.
That's right.
You started with what you started, attorney turned photojournalist. Sara Anjargolian decides to tackle a difficult topic, poverty in Armenia. 5 years later, we're talking about projects that have both spun off of that and also are trying to attack that very same topic, alleviation of poverty in Armenia. Thank you, Timothy Straight. Thank you, Sara Anjargolian. Thank you for being patient with us. This is a group of people who really believes in what they're saying, and we hope we were able to share that with you. Thank you for following us on CivilNet.